Hey everyone, this is Dan doing the usual thing on full tilt, four tables. This time at 1-2, right off the bat, we've got pocket tens on table 3. I think it's a lot better to flat here versus a under the gun raiser that seems to be pretty loose passive, so his range is going to be significantly stronger than someone that's obviously a lot more loose aggressive. I definitely consider 3-betting pocket tens versus someone that's like a 24 or 20 player. But against a 37, I think 3-betting here is over-upping your hand a little bit. I think it's better to just flat and play a pot in position. Once the flop hits like this, I mean, we've got an overpair, and we've got a semi-decent flush draw. I think our hand, I'm pretty happy with our hand right now, given that we're check 2. So I definitely think there's merit in betting out to protect against random hands like, queen, king with the king of clubs. So I'm going to bet, if I'm check raised here, I'm not going to love it. But again, I think our hand is too strong to fold. I mean, even though he seems to be pretty loose passive, it is over 44 hands. So he could have a hand like 10 jack. He could have pocket sevens with the 7 of clubs. You're never really sure what exactly he's capable of doing, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's probably not the best and most thinking of players, and so you can never be 100% sure that they're going to play rationally. So having an overpair plus the 10 high flush draw, I think it's good enough to get it in. I wouldn't be thrilled about it, but certainly not going to fold there. Throughout this video, I don't really run that well. I can't really seem to get much going. I tend to try to make some plays, and they don't work out so well. So I think having a video like that every now and then is probably pretty good, because you can talk about what your mindset should be when plays don't go well. And it's definitely very important not to get too frustrated when things you're doing aren't working, or when it seems like everyone's always playing back at you. Because I think that's what can lead to or extend a lot of downswings, is when you make plays that are suboptimal just because you haven't been running that well, so you're going to start trying to make stuff happen. And we'll talk about that throughout the video, but definitely trying to keep the same mindset no matter how you're running. It's tough to do, but certainly it's very important. Ace 10 offsuit on table 1, I think it's going to be an open. I probably would like to open a little bit smaller. Generally, when there's short stacks left to act behind me, I'll typically scale down by like a half a BB. So I probably opened 3 times the big blind instead of 3.5. Also, something that's pretty important, and it's when you're playing 6 or however many tables, you can kind of forget about it. Just kind of go into autopilot mode, just hit the pot button when you're opening. But I think opening a little bit smaller when there's short stacks left to act behind will save you a little bit of money here and there, and you play long enough, play enough hands, those small bet sizing issues will add up over time. Table 4, Jack King offsuit with a poster in the cutoff. Definitely going to open this because there's extra dead money in, and obviously Jack King offsuit is not a great hand under the gun, but I think it's strong enough given that there's a completely random hand that's with 7 tom that's putting money in, and Jack King is certainly doing pretty well versus a random hand. I choose to just check and give up on this board because owned is a very tight player, over 50 some hands. So I think his flatting range here is going to be pretty strong. I mean, I don't hate a c-bet, but I think a lot of his range is going to be something like pocket pairs or a lot of possibly slow paid premium hands. And so I think a lot of times I'll get floated here. A lot of times he's just not going to fold, and he's certainly not the type of player that I'm going to want to be trying to double barrel off of hand, because typically I think that the tighter players that don't play too many hands, when they actually decide to play a hand, they're more reluctant to let it go since they're only playing a hand every, seems like 20 minutes. When they actually do get some action, it's like they just don't want to give it up because they've waited so long to actually play. Table 3, check min raised here. I believe I isolated a small blind limper. I think here, just without any reads, it's just going to be a fold. I mean, he's not that aggressive. Well, I mean, he's not that, loose pre-flop. And so even though he might not be repping, a whole ton of hands, and it might be tempting to just look at his check min raise as weakness, I think that floating there, or I think if you float there, I think more often than not you're going to be faced with some double barrels on the turn, and then you're just kind of burning money by floating. And doing something like shoving over top is just not really a viable option. I think it can be tempting because his check min raise might look pretty weak on a drawing board, but I think that's going to be kind of burning money, and certainly you don't necessarily want to be influenced by a weak looking bet, because a lot of players will bet or raise smallish in the hopes of looking weak with an actual strong hand. But that's definitely a spot where if things aren't going well and you're just not hitting any hands and you just can't seem to get action when you do have big hands, it's a spot like that that can be very, very tempting to be like, oh, I bet this guy doesn't have anything, so I'm just going to go ahead and shove. I've got overcards, backdoor draw or whatever. I've probably got enough fold equity. It's slots like that that can get you in a lot of trouble. So I recommend really sticking to your plan, playing solid basic poker, and really thinking about decisions before you make them, even when running badly. Table 2, I isolate a small blind limper, 6-7 suited. I think it's, I don't mind checking back, but I think with 7 high, I don't mind isolating because I don't mind taking down the pot pre-flop, because even though I've got a suited connector, it is only 7 high, so I feel like once a seemingly fairly loose passive player gets in the pot, they're not really going to like to fold too many medium to top pair hands. And so let's say the flop comes, I don't know, king 8-4, and Cincy style's got 8-10. 8-10's not really a great hand, and certainly it's not strong with a king out on the board, but I feel like he's going to check call down, at least one street, probably 2 or more. And so it becomes a spot where you're trying to barrel him off a hand when he's just not going to fold that much. And so the hands he's limping are, even though they're most likely probably pretty weak overall, even a hand like 8-10 is still doing well versus 6-7, because once we get the showdown, obviously 10 high is going to win more than 7 high. So I don't mind taking it down pre-flop, and then I also like having the initiative on the flop, so that if we both completely miss the flop, I'll have a better chance of taking it down. The board comes, well, after he limp min 3 bets me. I think it's pretty indicative of